when you both stop contacting each other. The silence usually feels temporary, and part of you still believes that one message could bring everything back to the way it used to be. During the first few days, both of you may keep checking your phone, secretly hoping the other person will finally decide to reach out first. Neither of you actually wants the connection to disappear, but pride, fear, and uncertainty quietly become stronger than the desire to communicate. Every passing day makes breaking the silence feel more difficult, because the longer you wait, the more awkward that first conversation begins to seem. Sometimes both people are thinking about each other at exactly the same moment. Yet neither has the courage to send even a simple message. Instead of talking about what really happened, both of you begin creating stories in your own minds about why the other person stayed silent. Those assumptions slowly replace the truth, making the emotional distance feel much greater than it actually is. You may convince yourself they no longer care, while they could be believing the exact same thing about you. Silence has a powerful way of turning small misunderstandings into problems that seem impossible to solve. The conversations that once happened naturally every day are suddenly replaced by memories that play repeatedly inside your mind. You begin remembering the little moments that once seemed ordinary, but now feel far more meaningful than they ever did before. Even the smallest reminders, like a favorite song or familiar place, can unexpectedly bring those memories rushing back. At night, the absence of their messages often feels louder than any words they could have spoken during the day. Part of you wants to reach out, but another part keeps telling you that if they cared enough, they would contact you first. That inner battle continues day after day until the silence slowly becomes part of your normal routine. Eventually, you stop expecting your phone to light up with their name every single time you hear a notification. The hope that once felt so strong begins fading, not because your feelings disappeared, but because exhaustion quietly replaces expectation. Sometimes people confuse silence with strength, even though it is often nothing more than fear hiding behind pride. Protecting your ego may feel satisfying for a moment, but it can also cost you a relationship that still had hope. Not every relationship ends because love disappears. Many end because communication slowly disappears instead. Both people may still care deeply, but neither one is willing to become emotionally vulnerable first. Waiting for the perfect moment to reconnect often becomes the reason that moment never arrives at all. As time continues moving forward, both of you slowly begin building separate routines without realizing how much has changed. The emotional attachment becomes weaker, not because the memories disappear, but because life keeps demanding your attention elsewhere. You gradually learn how to spend your days without expecting to share every thought or experience with that person. Healing rarely happens overnight, but small moments of peace begin appearing when you least expect them. One day, you realize you made it through the entire afternoon without wondering whether they would finally contact you. That realization can feel bittersweet because it shows both your progress and the distance that has grown between you. Sometimes mutual silence becomes the ending that neither person ever planned, but both quietly accepted. There are relationships that end with loud arguments, and there are others that disappear without a single final conversation. The quiet endings often leave the deepest questions because nothing was ever fully explained or understood. You may spend weeks wondering what they were truly thinking while they were probably asking themselves the same question. When no one chooses to communicate honestly, unanswered questions slowly become permanent memories. Love alone cannot repair a relationship if both people continue choosing silence over honest conversation. Healthy relationships survive because someone is willing to be vulnerable before it becomes too late. Being the first person to reach out should never be seen as weakness when the intention is genuine understanding. However, if both people continue waiting forever, the opportunity to reconnect slowly slips away without anyone noticing. As months pass, acceptance gradually replaces the hope that once filled every quiet moment. You begin understanding that some people remain important to your story, even if they are no longer part of your daily life. The memories stay with you, but they no longer control your emotions the way they once did. You start discovering happiness in places that once reminded you only of loss and disappointment. Your confidence slowly returns because your emotional well-being is no longer dependent on someone else's response. The silence that once caused pain eventually becomes a reminder of how much you have grown through the experience. Looking back, you realize that many problems could have been solved if both of you had chosen honest communication earlier. Relationships rarely fall apart because of one single mistake. They usually fade through many moments of silence left unspoken. Sometimes the greatest lesson is realizing that love needs effort from both people to continue growing. No matter how strong the feelings once were, they cannot survive forever without trust, communication, and consistent effort. Choosing peace does not always mean you stopped loving someone. Sometimes it simply means you stopped chasing what was no longer mutual. There comes a moment when waiting no longer feels hopeful, and instead begins delaying your own healing. Moving forward does not erase the importance of what you shared, it simply allows you to create space for a healthier future. When you both stop contacting each other, the silence eventually gives you the answer that neither of you was willing to say out loud. Sometimes the most meaningful closure is not found in one final conversation, but in accepting that both of you quietly chose different paths.